Hey guys, and welcome. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the three best performing and most popular, most recommended windshield mount radar detectors. From left to right, we've got the Valentine 1, we've got the Escort Redline, and we've got the Escort Passport Max2. These are some of the most expensive ones available on the market. Again, the windshield mount ones, not the custom installed ones, and they're also going to be some of the best performing ones. Each one has its pros and cons, and so a really common question is, which one is the best? Which one should I get? It's not easy to give one universal answer. It really depends on, what you're looking for. It's kind of like asking, which car is the best? Well, what are you looking to accomplish? Where do you drive? How important is fuel economy or comfort or budget or different features? It really depends on what kind of experience you want to have. And so what we're going to be talking about here in this video is kind of the strengths and weaknesses of each detector. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but we're going to give you kind of a higher level perspective. And of course, we're going to get into some detail. Basically telling you this detector's strengths is this. If you'd like to experience this, if this is what you're looking for, this detector may be a better fit than that one. And so that's really what we're going to be getting into here. It's not so much going to be answering the question, which one is the best? Because in my opinion, there really isn't an answer to that. Yeah, I've got my own preferences, but that's because this detector suits me and it suits my personality and needs better than the others. But for other people, another detector may be a better fit for them. So with that said, we're going to be talking about, again, the strengths of each detector and what each one is really suited for. So with that said, let's just go ahead and dive on in. So what we're looking at here, you can see we've got some phones, we've got a bunch of detectors. What is all this? Well, this right here is going to be the Valentine 1. I've got a secondary concealed display right over there, which I'll explain a little bit here in a bit. I've got a phone hooked up via Bluetooth running the free app EAV1 on Android. It's going to add a lot of functionality. In the middle here, I've got the Escort Redline. And then right over here, I've got the Escort Passport Max2, which is paired via Bluetooth to Escort Live running on an iPhone. So let's go ahead and talk about briefly kind of the strengths of each detector. The V1 is going to be a detector that's going to give you a ton of really useful information. It's got, the legendary arrows telling you if the signal is in front of you or behind, which I find really useful. Tons of situations where that's been really beneficial. There's also a ton of options as far as customizing and tweaking to really create the type of experience that you want. It is going to require more manual intervention. To program, it's not the easiest to program natively, and if you pair it with a phone, it's going to add some functionality, but you're going to have to, configure some things there. So this is my detector of choice. I love really going in, customizing and tweaking and creating the exact type of experience that I want. And this one for me gives me the most amount of information and the most amount of control over the type of experience that I want. And I really love it. The next one that we're going to be talking about is the Escort Redline. This one is going to be the top performer. This is going to give us the longest range and the longest performance. So this one is awesome. I'll like this if I'm driving out in the mountains, out in the highway. And if there's a lot of things that are going to be really diminishing the radar detector's capability of detecting radar. You've got hills, you've got radar absorbing trees. It's making it tougher for a detector to alert. The Redline is going to be giving us the best range, the best detection capabilities out of the three detectors here. It's not necessarily going to have all the whiz-bang fancy features of the other ones, but if you want rock-solid performance, there is no substitute to the Escort Redline. Finally, we've got the Escort Passport Max2. This is Escort's currently most expensive windshield mount detector. It's designed to be pretty plug and play. It doesn't require as much manual intervention and customization as some of the other detectors made in order to, really maximize the performance and capabilities of. This is designed for ease of use. You put it on, and it's going to do a great job out of the box. It's not going to give you the same performance as the Redline. It's not going to give you the same degree of control that you'll have with the V1. It's designed to be more automatic and just do a great job on its own. And for most people, that's really what they're looking for. And, that's why it's actually one of the most popular ones. There are some weird quirks with it that kind of diminish the experience, at least for me, but it's not going to impact everybody. And so as we dive in more deeply, I'm going to go into some of the pros and cons of each detector and explain a little bit more in detail about all the different categories. So I guess with that said, let's just go ahead and take a look at how alerts actually show up on all three detectors. We're going to go ahead and hit it first with a Ka band signal. 34 seconds. So as you can see, we've got the arrows here on the V1, we've got our frequency display, we've got the red line right there saying KA 34.7, and we've got the max giving us the frequency and the strength of the signal right there. Now, all of these detectors can be paired with a phone like this. They are going to require some sort of Bluetooth module. For the V1, it is an additional accessory that you purchase. Same thing with the red line. You got to get a special Bluetooth cable for it. The Escort Passport Max, you have to get a Bluetooth cable, or the Max2 is the same exact thing as the Max, but the Bluetooth is actually integrated inside the detector. So it's all available there. Okay, cool. That's Bluetooth. Let's talk about one of the most important qualities of a radar detector, which is its performance. How well can it actually detect radar? Well, in this case, they're all going to do an excellent job. All three of them in the real world are going to give you phenomenal performance, and they'll save you in, the majority of situations. All three, they're the top tier detectors that you can get, and they're going to be excellent. At this point, when we're going to be talking about some of the comparisons, it's kind of like comparing a Ferrari to a Lamborghini to a Pagani. You're looking at like high-end radar detectors, so they're all going to be excellent. Yes, some are going to be a little bit faster, they're going to give you a little bit better range, but in the grand scheme of things, all of them are going to be really good here. So with that said, the red line, as I said earlier, is going to be the best performing detector. This thing has sensational range, sensational performance. So if that's what you're looking for above all else, I would definitely recommend the red line. The V1 is going to give you roughly equivalent performance to the Max and the Max2, especially when the V1 is configured for you turn off KA guard and you enable custom sweep. So when you configure the V1, you can get equivalent performance to the Max. The Max, again, is going to be doing a great job for you out of the box, and you're not necessarily going to need to tweak it and fine-tune it in order to get that performance. Again, customizing it's not really a big deal. I've got a bunch of videos out on these detectors explaining how to customize them, how to set them up properly and safely to really get that performance. And if you're curious about that, go take a look at some of my other videos, and it's all explained. It's really not a big deal. So the Max, again, is designed to just do a great job on all bands straight out of the box. It's going to give you roughly the equivalent performance as a properly set up V1. Factory V1 is going to be performing worse than a Max, but when you go ahead and tweak it with custom sweeps, turn off KA guard, you're going to get the same performance and range roughly as the Max. Now, with that said, there is going to be some variability here. You'll find some tests where sometimes the Max will actually outrange the red line, or the V1 will outrange the red line. And so it's you'll start to see conflicting results when you look online. And so let's explain briefly why that is. There is some variance in terms of manufacturer's tolerance. Some units are going to perform a little bit better than others. So if you pick any two V1s and red lines at random, typically the red line is going to outperform the V1, but sometimes you may get an especially hot V1 and a little bit slower red line. And in that case, you may find that the V1 will actually perform better. So we've done a bunch of tests with a whole bunch of people all over the world sending in, we've done a bunch of red lines, a bunch of V1s, a bunch of Maxes. And what you'll find is that even though there are some outliers in the testing, the overall picture is that the red line is going to give you the best performance. And then the V1 and the Max2 will be just below that. So that's typically what you'll find. So yes, sometimes, some of the other detectors may outperform the red line, but typically that's not the case. So there you go. That's a look at performance. Now, in addition to long distance range, another one that we can take a look at is actually going to be its reaction time, or reactivity, we could say. How good it is at alerting to brief signals. Out of the box, again, the Max is going to be the fastest. When you properly set up the detectors with band segmentation and RDR off here, and KA guard and custom sweeps enabled there. Again, watch my videos if you're curious on what that means and how to do that. Once these guys are actually properly set up, they'll actually be slightly faster than this guy. So again, this guy's fastest with all frequencies turned on. This guy's are faster with some of the filters and some frequencies reduced, turned off. So in terms of just testing that I've done, this guy's going to be the fastest. This guy's going to be slightly slower, and then this guy's going to be slightly slower than all three. Again, it's kind of like saying a Ferrari is slightly slower than a Lamborghini or vice versa. They're all going to be really, really fast, and any one of them will do a great job in the real world. So there's a difference between, just kind of an academic understanding of what you'll see in the lab versus what really matters in the real world, right? So we can say, yes, the V1 is technically faster, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter too much. Any one of them are going to be plenty fast. So that's going to be your reaction time. Next, we're going to be talking about one of also the most important things, which is going to be how well the detectors can filter out false alerts. If your detector has great performance, that's awesome. But if it's false alerting all the time, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, and you're going to begin ignoring some of the alerts. It's just too chatty. Like, ideally, you want a detector that's only alerting when you've got a legitimate signal and is staying quiet when it's a false alert, right? Easier said than done. But each detector has its set of different filters that are available to help accomplish this. And they all have a different set of filters and a different way of going about it. So with that said, again, it's going to be kind of a similar situation where the Max is going to be the best out of the box. The other ones are going to be better if you take the time to properly configure them, which is going to be kind of the typical trend here that you'll see with these detectors. So let's talk about this. The V1 out of the box is going to be one of the noisiest, chattiest detectors you can get on the market. It's designed to be very sensitive and alert to everything, and you'd have to use some brain power with the arrows and the strength meter and the bogey counter telling you how many signals to do a lot of the analysis yourself. There is some basic filtering built into the detector, which does an okay job. It's not going to do as good of a job as some of the other detectors. So what you can do is if you pair it with an Android phone, Android only, not iOS, an Android phone using a Bluetooth module, you can get a lot of the features that are available here, and yet it'll actually work even better. So you're going to get things like GPS lockouts. You can get things like muting signals at low speed. Yes, you can do it with Savvy without a phone, but you can also do it with a phone, and that'll help reduce a lot of the false alerts. You can enable custom sweeps, which you'll see how this detector is set up to only scan 33.8, 34.7, and 35.5. You do need a phone in order to set that. You cannot do it through the detector, but once you do that, you're really going to get the awesome performance of the detector, and you're going to get reduced false alerts. It's really going to open up the V1 and maximize its capabilities. So in my opinion, you're really going to want V1 paired with YaVi1 to really complete the package of what the detector has to offer. So, as you can tell, we do have some additional accessories that are really important. The phone, the Bluetooth module, the detector, like you've got some extra doodads, a phone mount, like there's more stuff that's typically required to really maximize the performance of the V1. Yes, you can use your phone and actually customize it and then take your phone away, and it's still going to give you that, rockstar awesome performance. You will lose some of the functionality like the GPS lockouts because those do require your phone. Unlike the Passport Max, when the feature is actually built into the detector, this one is going to require the phone in order to get the GPS lockouts, and not everybody wants to do that. So, again, it's one of those things where it's going to require, maybe more devices, but it's going to give you the same functionality, and actually GPS lockouts here, in my opinion, do work a little bit better there. Not perfect, not in every case, in every scenario, but I do prefer the lockout style here with YaVi1. Cool. Okay, in terms of filtering, the blind spot monitoring filter, that's going to be also one of the most important ones. A lot of detectors these days are going to false alert to cars that have blind spot monitoring systems. There is a feature in each detector that if you turn it on, it's going to give you the best ability to filter them out. In V1 land, it's called TMF, Traffic Monitor Filter. In Escort products, they call it TSR, or Traffic Sensor Rejection. Basically introduces a delay, and it says any brief alerts I want you to filter out, any longer alerts I want you to go ahead and alert to. Really simple. The V1 has the shortest alert required in order to alert. The Max2 has the longest delay and the heaviest penalty in order to then get the alert. However, for whatever reason, the V1 actually works the best in terms of filtering out vehicles that have the blind spot monitoring system, and specifically the newest V1s that have the latest and greatest updates. V1 is calling it the Junk K Fighter, or TMF2. Second version of TMF. The older V1s had a feature called TMF, which worked as well, but not as well. And then before that, before you had TMF, they didn't really have this ability. So the newest V1s, 3.894 or newer, will give you the best ability to actually filter out vehicles that have blind spot monitoring systems. TSR on the Redline, in this particular case, the overall consensus is that it is going to be the second best. It's better than the Max at filtering them out, oddly enough, but not as good as the V1. Slightly longer delay than the V1, but also not quite as good at filtering them out, interestingly enough. Finally, the Max over there on the right with TSR, it's got the longest delay that it introduces in filtering, so it has the greatest likelihood of missing any briefer alerts. And interestingly enough, it's also the worst out of the three at filtering out blind spot falses from other vehicles when you're driving around on the road. And that to me is something that's really, really important. There's not too much that you can do to deal with that. And so you just kind of enable the filters and hope for the best. There is other stuff that you can do of when you start getting those things. Some information here helps it easier to decipher, oh, this is just a blind spot false, and some other things. But basically, kind of the short version is this guy has the best capability of filtering them out. This guy is second best, and this guy is third best. And that is something that you'll actually see a real world difference in driving around. Again, even this guy is not going to be perfect. He will still false to a lot of the GM brand vehicles, the GMCs, the Chevys, the Cadillacs. Like, they definitely will still false this guy. There's no detector in the market that can completely filter them out, but some detectors do better than others. So that said, that is blind spot filtering. Let's talk next about ease of use. Well, this is where things are going to kind of reverse. The Max on the right is going to be the easiest one to use. It just kind of does everything. Like, it doesn't even require a phone. It has tons of stuff actually integrated into the detector, so it's going to require fewest additional accessories in order to really get all the performance. Like, if you want GPS lockouts, they're available here on the V1, but you are going to have to get a phone. If you want GPS lockouts on the Redline, you're also going to have to get a phone. And the GPS lockouts are all going to be manual. And what I mean by manual is when we trigger an alert. Oh, I got locked out. Okay. I'm going to have to wait for it to come back. But basically what happens is with this one, you're going to get a button on the phone if it's not already locked out like it is right now. And it'll say, I want to lock out this signal, which means I want you to learn it. And in the future, when you see this signal, I want you to go ahead and mute it for me automatically and not alert. Really, really useful feature. The Max2 will just do this automatically. It doesn't require a phone. You basically just plug it in and it starts doing all the lockouts for you automatically without you having to know anything about lockouts. It's pretty awesome in that regard. The Redline will require your phone in order to do it. And so you are going to manually have to, every time you pass a new area with signals you want to lock out, you're going to have to press the lockout button on the phone and do it yourself. If you don't have your app running and the phone paired to the detector, all the lockouts will, well, they won't work because they're all stored in your phone. In the Max's case, it's all stored here in the detector. In the V1, it's also all stored in your phone. And so these two guys are going to require the phone in order to get the GPS lockouts, where this guy will not. So let's go ahead and trigger K-band again, and you'll see the lockout button. Oops. And my battery died on my K-band radar gun. Oops. Oh well. Actually, let's just do this. I'll shoot it with KA. Okay. You see that lockout button right there? It actually doesn't work. It's a bug in the current version of Escort Live where even on KA band signals you can hit lockout, and it doesn't actually lock the signal out, but the button for whatever reason is showing up there, even though it didn't in older versions. But basically what you would do is when you have it paired with your detector and you run across a K-band alert, you can press that button and then it will automatically lock the signal out for you. So that's a really useful feature there. And again, for the sake of ease of use, even though all three detectors have that feature, the Max is going to win in the sheer ease of use category. In terms of how well that feature works, the Escort implementation is going to be more aggressive. It is a lot easier. You can just lock it out, and it's going to pretty much lock out anything and everything. It's going to try to set it up in such a way where it's not going to actually lock out a legitimate police officer. However, it can and it will. It's happened to me several times where it's actually locked out a police officer when it was trying to lock out the false alerts in the area. And so while in theory the idea is, yes, it is supposed to lock out only false alerts, it can absolutely still lock out police officers. Now, YAVI1's lockouts were developed after Escort stuff, kind of in response to a lot of that, and they were designed to be safer. Long story short, it's designed so that it'll alert to new signals that it's seen in addition to all the previous lockouts. It is going to be noisier. It is going to sometimes alert you to false alerts that it's previously locked out. And it errs on the side of caution and alerting you. So while the Escort side is going to lean toward the side of keeping things really quiet, right? YAVI1 is going to err on the side of caution and alert you more often than not. So it's much, much less likely to lock out a police officer. It does still have some bugs that are now at this point still being worked out. The majority of them are taken care of, but it has had some issues with like locking out KA signals or muting them by mistake. So again, none of these options are totally perfect. They all have their pros and cons and risks. But from what I've seen so far, this is going to be one of the safest options. This is going to be one of the quietest options. So Everything in life is a trade-off, right? That's kind of the overall sense of lockouts and false alerts on the different detectors. We can also talk about red light camera alerts, since that's actually one of the features that's built into the Max2 that's not available on the other detectors. If you look over here on Escort Live, you've got kind of a visualization of where all the red light cameras and the speed cameras are here in the Seattle area. Now, again, like the other detectors, it has the GPS chip built in, and it has the whole red light camera database built in. And so you can get the alerts here on the detector without actually requiring a phone. So as you're driving around, it's also going to alert you to ticket issuing red light cameras and speed cameras. The accuracy is actually quite good. It doesn't alert to, most areas that don't actually have, they're just kind of traffic cameras, but they're not like speed cameras that give you tickets. It won't alert you to those. So it does do a pretty good job with that. One issue with that is it's also going to alert you to just the way it operates. Like, it doesn't actually know what road you're on. So if you're driving down the highway and there's a red light camera that's on a street, like right next to the highway, it will alert you to that as well, because it doesn't know if you're on the highway or on city streets. So the problem with it is you're going to get a lot of false alerts to these red light cameras. I experience them all the time. And there's nothing that you can really do to deal with it. It's either drive around and get a ton of alerts, both legitimate and false, or turn the feature off entirely. And the latter option is what I do. Due to all the false alerts, I wind up turning the feature off and running just Waze. Waze is really good. It's a free app like these guys. It's an app that you can download to your phone, and it's also going to give you red light cameras like this guy. One of the benefits is that it also takes into account what road you're on, so you're not going to be getting all these false alerts on the highway when you're driving and the red light cameras are in the city. So I find that it works better and you get far reduced false alerts. And so yes, it's true that this guy has red light camera and speed camera information built into the detector, and that's great. But in my experience, I'd rather just run Waze. It works better, fewer false alerts, totally free, and it runs independent of any detector. So I wouldn't necessarily use that as a reason to pick one detector over another, even though it has the feature, unless maybe you're totally against running any apps on your cell phone and you just want one integrated package, right? So the Max, again, has the feature built in. But if you're willing to maybe add a few other different accessories and devices, you can actually get better capabilities and performance than just the Max2 alone. Okay, let's talk next about reliability and build quality. This is also an area where you're going to find some differences here in the detectors. Let's start with the V1. The V1 has been out for a long time. It's a very solid unit. They've had all these detectors had issues when they first came out, but then, they fix the bugs, they resolve issues, all that good stuff. At this point, there's not really many issues that you'll see with the V1. There are still some weird little quirks with it, but in terms of reliability, this guy is pretty solid, and that to me is really important. Like, I want to be able to put a detector on my windshield, and that thing works. Always, every time, very well. It doesn't die, and I'm going to get into some of the issues that you'll see with some of the other detectors, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But basically, the V1 is just a solid, well-engineered piece of hardware, and I really, really love that. You won't hear about this kind of stuff in too many reviews, but basically, the overall consensus is the V1 is like a really solid product. Every now and then, maybe every couple years, it is helpful to send it back for a tune-up and just make sure everything is in good working order. But overall, the thing is like a really solid, reliable product, and I love that. There's not too much to say about it. The Redline is actually quite similar. It's a very solid unit. Originally magnesium. The newer ones now have a plastic shell, but they perform really well. The only real main issue at this point is sometimes the speaker inside can go out. It's a little $10 speaker. It's easy to replace. You can either send it to Escort and have them do it, or you can do it yourself. But you definitely run into the possibility of the speaker can blow and you'll get no audio alerts. You'll get the visual alerts, but no audio alerts. This typically happens when you run the unit at about 100% volume. It's too much for the speaker. The speaker can't quite handle that over time, and the speaker will eventually blow. It's a known issue. It's something good to be aware of. So if you're going to run the Redline, run it at maybe 75% volume or a little bit less, and that will help maintain the longevity of the speaker. Other than that, the guy is reliable, he's solid, he works very well, there's no issues, really, really good. The Max2 has probably been one of Escort's most problematic detectors they've ever released, which is really unfortunate because it's also has a lot of the most features, and it's one of the most popular detectors that they have. Like, this is kind of their flagship model. And Let me just run briefly through some of the issues that it's got. Well, I'll get into the mount kind of in the next section. There's been issues with the case falling apart. The case is removable and you can put different colored cases on it. And so the case earlier on had a tendency of kind of cracking and falling apart. The lens in the front would fall apart. So, the physical issues, it's had things like that. It tends to false on KA band on like 33.6. It tends to false to some blind spot monitoring vehicles on KA band instead of just on K band. These guys will false to them on K band, but this guy falses on KA to those vehicles, kind of like my Cobra does, which is really bizarre. These guys will also false to Cobras more often than this guy, but to non-Cobras, to blind spot vehicles, this guy will false more. So it's kind of the trade-off. They all will false for different reasons and different amounts. Like this guy probably falses the most to Cobras, this guy in the middle very rarely, and this guy pretty much not at all. So you've got your trade-offs there. This guy, the laser sensor in this one is pretty awful. It's one of the worst laser sensors you can get. I mean, Escort has some really, really good products with good laser sensors. The Redline is really good. The 9500iX are really good. I mean, a lot of their other products, the smart radar that are less expensive and older, had a really good laser sensor, but the laser sensor in the Max is just terrible. Poor sensitivity, doesn't alert very well, and so while it does have the feature, it doesn't work very well. The GPS chip in this one is also pretty poor. It has a tendency of losing the GPS sync more often than others, trouble maintaining the lock, inaccurate speeds sometimes. So the GPS, it's kind of like they really kind of cut corners with this guy. And there's not maybe one big issue, but there's a ton of little bitty things that when you drive around, it's just kind of problematic. There's a new mount that's used. It's called the sticky cup. You can see it's different than most detectors, how they have their two suction cups. If that thing gets dirty, it has a tendency of just falling off the windshield along with your $600 detector just slamming down on your dash. And you have to clean it. As long as it's clean, it does do a good job. But if it gets dirty, it has a tendency of falling off really easily. There's also been issues with vibrations in the mount, where when you're driving around, the thing just bounces all over the place. And people have resorted to maybe custom fabricating their own mounts or shoving like a piece of paper in there or something just to keep it from vibrating all over the place. Most detectors, a lot of these ones, like the Redline here, hopefully it'll show up well, it actually goes right here and it has these little rubber pads. So when it mounts right there, these rubber pads actually press against the windshield and give it an extra point of contact so it doesn't vibrate. So it's a good solution. You'll see also it has the release button right here, so it makes it easy to press and access when you have it right there. The Max is a little bit different. The release button is way, way, way back there, so depending on how steeply your windshield is raked, it can actually get really tough to reach back there and even get that button pressed. Additionally, here, I'll just show you on this guy. I've got an Escort Passport here, but this guy, the mount basically connects right there on the Max. And so it just kind of hangs off like this. And so there's nothing pressing against the windshield. And just due to the nature of the design, it vibrates more and the connection isn't as solid. And so it just kind of shakes all over the place typically. And so people have kind of had complaints over that. So it's weird. It's kind of one of those things where, yeah, it's got a bunch of good features, but most of them aren't actually designed that well. Like, yeah, it's got great range, but this guy beats it. Yeah, it can filter out false alerts, but these guys can do it better. Yeah, it can detect laser, but these guys do it better. Yeah, it can stick on your windshield, but these guys do it better. So, I mean, you guys can probably tell, I'm not the biggest fan of the Max. I've got one here, but it's kind of one of those things where this guy is good for somebody who just wants to put it on, and especially if you're not too concerned about the details, maybe ignorance is bliss, I don't know. If you just want something out of the box that you can put on your windshield and it's going to do a good job around the board, go ahead and go with this guy. If you're willing to invest a little bit of time learning about your radar detectors so that you understand what it's telling you and how to operate it, these guys are going to be perhaps better choices. And so that's kind of the overall consensus I would give, is this guy is going to be the best automated ease of use unit. These guys are going to be more solid and give you more control and ability than you'll get with that one. So, you get to decide what kind of experience you want to have. Which one is the best? Can't say. So you can tell they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. And yeah. I guess this guy, just like he's got some issues too. Like for example, you can't turn off the 33.8 range, and if you turn off KA guard here, you are going to definitely get some false alerts from Cobras, and there's not too much that you can do it. I've done some videos where I've talked about some of the advanced filtering options, but there's not too much you can do if you really maximize this guy's performance, whereas these guys, you do have some options as far as filtering them out. One thing that's also, I've noticed kind of one of the quirks of it is everything here is red, and at night it can be kind of tough to tell if you're dealing with KA band or K band. You can tell from the audio, the beep will sound different, but it's a little bit tougher to tell visually. Now you can see on my concealed display right there, I have customized it so I've made different colors for the different bands. In my case, I've made it so that KA actually alerts with a blue dot, and you could do the same thing with your V1. Either do it yourself or have somebody else do it. And also I've got it set up so right there, I've got different colors set up so that my phone will actually tell me at a glance if it's KA band or K band or whatever, and that makes it easier for me to tell. Just, I'm keeping my eyes on the road and I just see blue, bam, KA guard or KA. It makes it a little bit easier for me so I can really differentiate, especially if I've got the volume turned down and I'm operating the guy more visually than audibly. Great if I'm running music and I can't maybe hear the detector as well, or if I've got other people in the car who maybe get annoyed by the detector. This guy gives me a lot of really good information that I can do visually, where these guys maybe a little bit less. I really do like the concealed display over here. I run it right on my dash. You can see it's actually like with double stick tape permanently mounted there. And so I can run the whole unit just with my eyes. I look straight ahead. I can see everything, the arrows, the different frequencies, the signal strength. I've got, my phone right there. So I've got a ton of visual information that I don't get quite as much with these guys. Like, yeah, I can definitely run these guys here as well. I typically prefer running my detectors up high by the rear view mirror, kind of out of the way behind the tint strip so they're less visible, even though my car doesn't have a tint strip. But that's typically good place, good performance, out of the way, not visible to thieves and other people. So I typically like running it up there rather than down low. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the highlights. Redline is going to give you the maximum range, maximum performance. It's going to do a pretty good job at filtering out false alerts from blind spot vehicles. This guy's going to give you less range, may do a little bit better job at filtering out false alerts from other vehicles. You're going to get the most amount of options, control, and configurability if you pair it with your phone. If you run it standalone and you never pair it with the phone, you are going to definitely be missing out on some of the features, but it's still going to do a great job in terms of performance. If you pair it with the phone temporarily to go ahead and customize it, tweak it, enable custom sweeps, you'll get maximum performance without some of the false filtering stuff like GPS lockouts. So the best package available for the V1 is running it here with this app. The Max and the Max2 do a great job out of the box. It's pretty much a self-contained unit. While it does have some quality control issues and things, most people may not necessarily run into them, or you may not necessarily know about them. You can just put it up, and it's kind of the best choice so far of if you don't know much about radar and radar detectors, you just want something that beeps when it's a legitimate alert and stays quiet when it's not. Although it can't totally pull that off, it's going to be one of the best choices to help you achieve that. And so if that's what you're looking for, just ease of use, I would recommend this detector. So again, I'm not too big of a fan of it personally, but I really like the extra control and information afforded by some of the other options. But for other people, they just want something plug and play. In that case, the Max is going to be the best choice, or the Max2, either one. So, whew, cool. I guess that's about it. I mean, we could always talk about more stuff, like the case, how these guys are black, and this one's kind of silvery, so he reflects more in the windshield, which is not as good when you're driving around in town. We could always talk about more and more stuff, but that's basically the highlights and the main differences between the detectors. So which one is the best? There isn't really a best. They each have their fortes. These guys are going to give you the best performance when that's the most important thing. This guy's going to give you the most information and control, if that's what's the most important thing. And this guy's going to give you the most, the best ease of use and just automation. So there you go. That's what you can look for when you're looking at the three different detectors. So cool. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'd love to hear kind of what you guys think as well. Like there's other areas where maybe, this guy is really good in town, out of the box, not as good in town. Customized, he's really good in town. This guy is okay in town, but best when paired with a phone. This guy is really good in town, out of the box, on the highway. They can all do a great job. This guy's going to be the best, so Let me know kind of what you guys run and why, and like what areas you drive around in, and kind of I run this detector because I like this, this, and this. Just kind of let me know what your favorites are. Cool. Other than that, make sure you guys subscribe. Doing tons of videos about this. If you're curious about more about any particular detector, just search my channel and you'll see plenty of information about all three. How to customize them, how to control them, how to configure them, understanding some of the features and how they operate, test results, it's all there. So, cool. Well, I guess that is that for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.